Well, I did it. This is episode 1000 of the Daily Sales Message podcast, where every single day I share a piece of simple and actionable advice. It's designed to help you feel more confident and sell more stuff too. Now, this is a special episode, not least because it's episode 1000, because I'm crazy and I've recorded 1,000 episodes of a podcast, but it's going to be much longer than usual. So if you're tuning in for a daily tip, this is not the episode for you. Come back tomorrow, have a look at 999 other things that we've got before this one. Today, I'm reflecting on 1,000 episodes, what I've learned from recording 1,000 podcasts and my whole journey with the Daily Sales Message, and also where it's going. So strap in. I've got no plan and no notes. It's going to be a rambling conversation. This could be a 15-minute video, could be a 45-minute video. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. So, why did I create the Daily Sales Message podcast in the first place? That's something that few people ask me over the years, and it's very interesting. It's interesting to me, at least. And if you go back on Spotify to the earliest episode and the actual trailer, I recorded the trailer in 2019. 2019, I recorded the trailer, and I had this big ambition. Yeah, going to a daily podcast. I remember somebody at the time saying to me, "Trust you. Have to be daily. Why can't you just do weekly? Like, you're mad. Why has it got to be in such big volumes?" I don't know. It has to be. And then I thought, I haven't got time. And that was it. And time kind of drifted on. I got to 2023 and I was networking, and I met a guy whose business was podcasts and all things podcasting. And he was talking to me about my methodology and what I've been up to, my business, etc. And he found it all interesting, which was lovely and flattering. And he turned around to me, like a few people had done before, and said, "Do you know what? You should have a podcast. You should have a podcast." I said, "Well, funny you should say that, mate. I have got a trailer for a podcast. I've got an idea, and I called it the Daily Sales Message. So it's kind of like newspaper feel to it. So it's something new every single day. But I've never really recorded it." So, well, why not? And you know, when you hear yourself sharing your excuses with people, and you can hear your own BS and say, "Well, I haven't got time," and blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is ridiculous. I've got all of the gear. Oh, excuse me, I'm not going to edit this episode. I've got all of the gear, amazing sound equipment, amazing video equipment, like all the gear, no idea kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I can hear my own BS excuses, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I made a metaphorical pinky promise with him. We didn't actually cross pinkies, but I made a metaphorical pinky promise with him that I was going to do it. So I went home and I set to work, and I thought, I'm going to create a daily podcast. How do I do it? So the next question that I often get asked, apart from how did I start it and why did I start it? So that's how. Let's talk about why. Why did I start it? Because I wanted a way to attract clients to my business, of course. But actually, I also wanted a way for people to size me up and check me out and decide if I know what I'm talking about. In the early days of my business, I used to give a lot of talks in person in pre-COVID times. And whenever I would talk, people would buy. And my wife turned around to me in those early days and said, "People, when you talk, people buy. You should talk more." So what greater way to talk more than to have a daily podcast where every single day I talk about my expertise, and people can judge me and think I'm a genius or think I'm an idiot in equal measure, but it's their decision to make. And I thought that if I allowed people to do that, then when I do eventually talk to people, if they've done their homework and they've listened to the podcasts and they've listened to things I've been talking about, at that point, if they're entertaining a call with me, they should be pretty much pre-sold and have a good sense that I can help them. So that was the main reason for doing it. I kind of thought also I would attract buyers to my business, but one of the things I've learned is that, for me at least, podcasting isn't an attraction method, not for a niche podcast like mine. It's no good really at attracting new people into my world, but it's absolutely brilliant for nurturing people, and like I thought it would be, for them to check me out, decide if they think I know what I'm talking about, and that greases the wheels of my business. It's also a really good follow-up mechanism. So if I speak to you today and I pitch you and say, "Yep, I'd love to work with you, blah, 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 here's what it costs," and then you go away, well, I can't email you tomorrow and the next day, 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 you're going to get annoyed, and I'm going to run out of excuses to speak to you in different ways of saying, can I have your money yet? But with a podcast, it's very different. So my podcast publishes to LinkedIn in particular. Most of my ideal clients are on LinkedIn, and certainly the people that I'm pitching to. So once they've spoken to me, even if they don't want to buy, I'll be on their feed every single day. Obviously, I'll eventually drift out if they don't interact with it. I'm not stupid, but I'll be in their feed talking about things of interest. And I have had people come to me out of the blue from years ago saying, blimey, I've been listening to you every day and now I need you and blah, 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 which is crazy because these are people, with all due respect to them, I'd forgotten about. You know, you meet a lot of people, do a lot of stuff. I'd forgotten about them. They found the podcast, they listened to it, they decided they needed my help and I could do it. And they reached out and they went on and bought. So that's why I started it, was as this kind of follow-up vetting, checking out mechanism. How I started it was the chat where I pinky promised somebody and said, I'm going to do this. And I'm pretty stubborn. I was like, I'm going to do this. And to be fair, apart from my Duolingo streak, which I've only just started 115 days ago, this has been the longest everyday concurrent thing that I've ever done outside of, brushing my teeth and going to the toilet and eating. This is the most committed thing that I've done. And that's also another fringe benefit that I get when I talk to people. They're like, wow, 1,000 episodes. So the fact that you have a podcast is interesting and impressive. I say impressive. I don't mean, oh, I'm brilliant. I'm just saying for some people it's impressive. So to have a podcast is impressive for some people. But to have 1,000 episodes, I mean, what does that tell you? It tells you this person is nuts, but it also tells you that they're quite committed and they've got a lot of useful things to talk about in particular. So that's why I started it, where it came from. The name, as I say, Daily Sales Message. My business is Clear Sales Message. So the Daily Sales Message, I wanted to have this kind of newspaper, current affairs kind of feel about it. Now let's talk about things I've actually learned from recording 1,000 episodes of a podcast, because I don't think there's too many people that have actually done it, because it's bloody hard. And I remember back to, there's two people actually, there's a Hormozy quote about having 1,000 episodes of a podcast. That is not why I did it, and I found out his reference to it after the fact, but he's got a point because you learn a lot. And then there was, I think my original inspiration was Gary Vaynerchuk. He had Wine Library TV. So before he became the Gary V that you and I know, he did 1,000 episodes of a wine podcast. 1,000 episodes, and his episodes weren't 2-3 minutes long like mine, where I could smash them out in bundles. His were a lot longer. So what have I learned? So first of all, rather embarrassingly, given what I do for a living, it took me a few hundred episodes to put a hook at the start of each episode. I would start each episode with, this is episode 675 of the Daily Sales Message, blah, 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 and like this big long intro. And I had a couple people reach out and say, dude, like, the intro's long, boring, like, get to the point. What do you, we just want to learn, what are you talking about? So I flipped that around, a couple of hundred episodes in, and I started with a hook, question, something like that. After that, so after the hook scenario, I also used to be pretty aggressive at the start. Hit the like and subscribe button and you know what to do and blah, blah, blah. And I just stopped doing that, because if the podcast is any good, you're going to hit the like or subscribe button anyway. I don't really think you need to be told to do that. And it was all a bit takey, where really the podcast to me is givey, if that's the word. So I don't really sell in the podcast either. And that's something that I've tried to maintain. Within the captions on Spotify and places like that, it will say, well, if you need some help, then here's how you can reach James, etc. I don't really have a continual push where I'm getting people to buy and I'm pushing people. It really is about, hello, here's something interesting, you should try it too, see you tomorrow, bye-bye, and that's it. So I learned that having a hook was important, not being pushy and salesy in terms of like and subscribe, not really referencing anything I've got for sale is absolutely the best idea. I also learned that recording in batches was the best way to do it for me. So there were some times where I would literally record it on the day. So I'd have to record it, edit it, upload it, etc., make the thumbnails on the day. Now in isolation, that's a big task. So I batched it up, and I generally record 10, 20, 30 episodes at a time. I'll talk to you about how I've got so much to talk about in a second, and why I just never seem to run out of interesting things to talk about. But I batch them in that way. So I'll record them all, then I will edit them all, then I will transcribe them all, and that's another thing. So the first few 100 episodes don't have captions on them because I was trying to save time and be lazy, and a few people said, can we have some captions, please? I said, okay, yes, you can. So I use Descript to run them through, get some captions on them, then I have to upload them. So I generally record them in a batch of 10, 20, 30 or so. So I learned that batching was the way forward. And I learned that talking about the next episode and the current one was a good way to get people to come back. So I would finish this episode and say, come back tomorrow and we're going to be talking about blah, 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 blah. Try and make it intriguing. And that should then get people to come back. So how do I never run out of things to talk about? This is something I've been asked before. How do I never run out of things to talk about? Now, I'm really lucky. I've actually got a problem where I've got too much to talk about, which I know is the reverse problem that most business people have, most salespeople have. But I'll explain why. So when I started Clear Sales Message, my consultancy business, what I actually do for money, because the podcast doesn't pay me any money whatsoever, just so you're aware. What I actually do for money, Clear Sales Message, is I teach people how to sell, and I focus on communication, and I create messaging for brands and things like that. In the early days, I wanted to map out, study, and understand what I was talking about and create my own unique methodology so I could reference it. So I started with simple things like the primacy and recency effect. We're more likely to remember the first thing that we hear and the last thing that we hear. Loss aversion. We're more encouraged to act against losing something rather than trying to gain something. So things like human behavior, cognitive biases, heuristics, which is a fancy term for like shortcuts in your brain, all this kind of behavioral stuff, and then some of the commercial stuff too, like anchoring the price, etc., etc. So I started to document all of this stuff. At the point of recording this, I have over 930 different parts of my methodology. All of them are different, all of them are unique, and they're all cross-reference in terms of how we achieve things in sales and selling. So the prime example, if you want to differentiate in the marketplace, how do you stand out? How can you be different? If I put you on the spot now, most people would maybe come up with 3, 5, 10 at a push ways that you could do it. I've got well over 100 different strategies that you can use. Some of them are seemingly small but important. Some of them are more obvious and that you'd know about them, but I've got over 100. And the purpose of me documenting everything was most people don't know what to say when they're selling, and most people don't know what to do either. So I'd cornered the saying piece. Like I know what to say to sell and how we shape our language and what we do to communicate clearly. That comes quite naturally to me. That's my skill, as it were. But what do you do? Like what's the tactical piece? That's the bit didn't come to me naturally, so I had to work on it, and I started to map all this stuff out. So I've got over 930 or so of these things. So each one of those essentially became a podcast episode. And I still pick up a few each week when I'm out and about. I'll be looking at packaging, looking at advertising, messaging, all sorts of stuff. I'm like a magpie, always looking out for ideas. I'll jot stuff down and I'll add it into my methodology and I'll add it into a podcast episode. So if you take those 930 plus different things that I've got, if you talk about them all in from just one angle, that's 930 episodes. If you have 2 different ways of looking at it, that's over 1,800. And so on and so on. And some of the episodes have got nothing to do with my methodology at all. It might be something that happened to me that week, an anecdotal story or mistake I made or whatever, which adds on the top. So you can quickly see how, rather than not having enough to talk about, I've almost got too much, and I'm trying to just keep one episode to one thing where possible. There's a couple where I've had lists and things, and obviously this one is going to be a joke because it's going to be quite long compared to the usual ones. But I try and keep it one idea per episode, and even the design to help you feel more confident and sell more stuff too, that took a bit of progression for me to understand what am I sharing, why am I sharing it, what's the point of it, and to have that nice natural. What I didn't want to do was bookend my episodes with obviously pre-recorded garbage where it's like, oh, welcome back to the Daily Sales Message Podcast, and it's all this high energy. They go, hi guys, so yeah, today we're talking about. I wanted to be able to intro it and outro it myself from memory, so it had to be super duper simple. I'm kind of jumping about here, aren't I? But hopefully you're still with me. If you've listened to any episodes of my podcast, you know my brain kind of jumps about a bit. Which brings me actually back a step to things that I've learned. I'll tell you one thing I did learn is about background music and royalty-free background music. That's been the biggest pain in the bum ever. A few hundred episodes in, I bought the rights to some music, which play in the background of the podcast because I figured that me just talking with silence in the background might be a bit boring. But the amount of YouTube content copyright restrictions that came up, obviously I cleared all of them because I paid for it and I was doing it the correct way. But just the hassle of saying, no, I've paid for it, and no, yes, it's fine, and blah, blah, blah. It was a waste of time. So 100 or 200 episodes ago, I just stopped putting music in the background of the podcast because I couldn't be bothered. It didn't really add anything for me. I thought it did. It didn't really. It just made it even more difficult, more time consuming for me to run the podcast. So not only was I recording 10, 20, 30 episodes a week, I then have to deal with copyright strikes and things like that. It was a pain in the bum. So there you have it. I've recorded 1,000 podcast episodes. But what now? What am I going to do now? Well, I'm crazy. So my next goal is 5,000, as you would expect. And to put it into perspective, 5,000 episodes, that's like over 10 years of content to come on top of the pretty much 3 years of content that I've already done. But for me, I don't plan on stopping. I came across a website many years ago, a podcast many years ago. I think it was called the Daily Boost or something like that. There was some podcast where it's a daily thing, and they got like hundreds and hundreds of episodes, and they just stopped. And it's really disappointing. I'm like, unless you've died, if they did die, then fair enough. But unless you've died, why are you stopping? Like, come on, you've made a commitment. Let's do it. So for me, I will continue to record and publish every single day. I have no plans on stopping anytime soon. I want to hit 5,000 recordings, 5,000 episodes. It's a never-ending thing for me because it's been so good for my business. And the purpose of this podcast episode is not for me to like encourage you to start a podcast, because it might not be the right choice for you. It's a lot of work. You've got to have a lot to talk about. And, you know, I'm not in the interest of selling you podcasty stuff, so why should I care? But it's just to reflect on, it's worked really well for me. Podcasting is so difficult for so many people that to have one and to have a lot of episodes and a lot of downloads, etc., really sets you apart. So if you're able to have a podcast, you're on Spotify, for example, place like that, you're swimming in a pool of far fewer people, because some people, I forget what the averages are, but it's like 10 episodes or 5 or 20 or something like that. A lot of people get all fired up. They start a podcast, it's all good. And then they run out of ideas, they run out of guests, it all gets too hard. You literally don't get paid to do it because it's like a marketing exercise. So you couple I'm not getting paid, I don't really see the benefit, it's really hard. It's no wonder people give up and abandon what they're up to. And so Spotify is just littered with, and other podcasting platforms are available, is just littered with podcasts that had a small tranche of episodes from a long time ago, and that's it. So for me to have daily updating episodes and also I'm not stopping and it's current, etc., it puts me in a really good position. One of the other things that's happened to me over the years, I just remember this, and then I'm going to bring this to a close because I'm definitely rambling now. But one of the other things that came out as a result of me having the podcast, which I never really thought about before, but makes a hell of a lot of sense, is that I have become part of a number of people's actual morning routine. So my podcast publishes at 7 a.m. UK time every single day, and I changed the timing once. And I had a couple of people reach out. One in particular, guy said, I walk my dogs every morning and I listen to your podcast episode. You have changed the time. You are messing with my dog walk. What are you doing? Which I thought was great, that A, he was that committed to it, but B, he actually took the time to write to me. And I've even had kind of friends of mine who are like, yeah, I listen to it when I walk to work, when I'm commuting, when I'm at the gym, when I'm driving. It forms part of people's routine. Now, the purpose of me having the podcast is to get my name out there, keep my name current, attract people to me, and hopefully help them to understand that I know what I'm talking about. I don't know any kind of meta ad or LinkedIn ad or anything that forms part of somebody's daily routine. Fascinating. So there's a huge huge amount of good here in terms of I'm giving away value, I'm trying to be useful, I'm sharing my expertise, I'm putting some good into the world, and that is of course coming back to me in all sorts of different ways. And whilst, like I say, I've not really attracted new buyers to me through the podcast, I have 100% been able to convert people because I have a podcast, because they can check me out. So there we have it, episode 1000, which is approximately 3 years, just under 3 years. I don't know. Can't do the maths. It's too early in the morning, but it's a long time, isn't it? And 1,000 episodes. My next goal is 5,000 episodes. I've learned a lot along the way, made a few mistakes, but I don't really care, to be honest. I used to be one of these people where I was nervous about putting out an unpolished version of myself in the world and what people would think. And with the greatest respect, I don't really care anymore. Not in a rude way. I do care what people think. Of course I do. But I'm not in a position anymore where I'm going to let that hold me back from doing what I want to do. And I was certainly there at the start, and I know a lot of people are too. And I guest on a lot of podcast episodes as well as having my own. I swear I do some real work at some point, honestly. But I was in a friend's podcast, and I spoke about my approach to things in life, which is evident here with my 1,000 episodes, is what I call the bulldozer method. So if I'm nervous about something, or I don't think I'm any good at something, I'm just going to do it in bulk. I'm going to do it in quantity just to completely desensitize myself to it and smash through it. So in the very early days, so before I had my podcast, I was nervous about putting myself on video, which is weird because people think I'm lying, because obviously I'm very, very comfortable now talking on video because I've done it so much. As you can imagine, you can't help but get comfortable and good if you've done it so much. I'm sat in my office by myself having a conversation with nobody. It's just a monologue. And hopefully if you're still watching or listening, I've kept your attention. But it's a skill set and you develop it over time. So people doubt me when I say, I used to be really nervous about talking to camera, and I was. And part of the podcasting journey has led me into this position where I'm supremely confident talking to camera and answering questions and having an answer for everything and speaking off the top of my head, because I've been in that position so many times. So there you go. It's been a journey. If you've been listening to episodes of the podcast, I really appreciate you. If you've been sharing it, commenting, liking, leaving reviews, I really, really appreciate every single person that's listened and watched the Daily Sales Message podcast over the last couple of years. I ain't stopping anytime soon, which is the good news. Like I say, my next goal is 5,000 episodes. So I shall see you for episode 5,000, which will be fun. And I look forward to sharing a lot more educational, informative and fun things to do with sales and selling to help you feel more confident and sell more stuff too. Look at that nice ending. It's almost like I practiced it, isn't it? Right, that's it for this one. I'll catch you tomorrow for a regularly scheduled edition, which will be more like 2 minutes than 10 hours of the Daily Sales Message podcast.